Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, July the 17th. And welcome to our commentary. We want to say hello to our good friend George Rodriguez in South Texas. George, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
George, I'm going to take you back a little bit on history today. Go back on this day in history, 1941. Neither one of us was around, obviously. Our parents had probably not even met. My parents had not even met in 1941. They were a couple of teenagers. And but in Cleveland, the fellow by the name of Joe DiMaggio has a hitting streak going, 56 games.
Wow.
He's already made it to 56. And the stadium is sold out, completely sold out. And that was the old Cleveland Stadium that had 80,000 people. So 80,000 people show up to see DiMaggio keep the streak going, but unfortunately he didn't. And it ended at 56. But July 17th, 1941 is a famous day in baseball history when the famous streak, in my opinion, the most difficult record in sports, 56 games consecutively getting a base hit facing major league pitching. That is a tough thing to do.
Fantastic.
But he did it. No, it is unbelievable. And, the second best one, George, is Pete Rose. And he did it in 1978. You probably remember that. 44. That got to 44. Big difference between 44 and 56. So anyway,
I wonder what the current one is right now. I wonder what the current one right now
is. There's always somebody going with like 10 or 15.
10 or 15.
But it's really, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Once in a while, you get somebody get up to 20. Once in a while, you'll have somebody get up. I remember the Rangers one time had a guy get up to 30. But it's really hard, George, because of the quality of pitching.
Well, it's hard in softball, let alone in fast pitch, in professional ball. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about facing the best pitching in the game, and
exactly in the world.
So in the world, and my gosh, and they're all trying to get you out. That's the thing, because they don't want to they don't want to keep the streak going. So I think that record, 56 consecutive games, is one of those records. I'll predict that it's probably never going to be broken. And here we are, almost 84 years later, and the record is still on the books. Yeah. Well, George, give us a little update from South Texas. I know you had spent some time in Kerrville the last time we spoke. What are you seeing down there? What's the latest you can tell us?
Well, the cleanup continues, and the recovery of bodies still continues. The death toll of confirmed bodies is up to 135, and there are still something like 20 people missing, presumed dead, of course. They are finding a lot of debris. They're being very, very careful in uncovering debris. I had a friend of mine who is involved in the recovery right now, telling me yesterday about how they had located a car that was buried in the sand, in the mud, and they were being very careful in removing it, but they didn't find anybody in it, luckily. And so the recovery continues. The rescuers are the elected officials are all saying, they don't need more people now. What they need is money. They don't want more people. There's a lot of people, volunteering, and mostly they're getting in the way more than anything else now. What they need now more than anything else is money, so that they can get equipment to start cleaning up. So, it's still a very, very tremendous tragedy, but I think that people are starting to turn the corner at least a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. It's a tremendous tragedy. There was a story a couple of days ago in the Dallas Morning News about two little sisters who were in that camp, who apparently were found together holding hands.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the pictures. What an incredibly sad story. Those two little girls are from St. Rita Catholic Church, which is where my wife and I used to go when we first got married. that's where we used to go. That was our church, and our 3 sons were baptized there before we moved out here. So it is just very sad, and I got to tell you, I got to hand it to the people doing the cleaning up, because it's very hot and humid, and it's got to be very painful when you keep looking and not quite finding people. That's got to be very difficult.
Well, what they are finding a lot also is livestock and pets, and all sorts of animals that got swept away as well. So it's not a pleasant situation they're looking at.
No, and the people doing the cleanup work are really heroes. When you just, in fact, there was a story that came out here in the Dallas Morning News about some of the pets that they're finding, and people adopting these pets, because there are apparently a lot of pets that were lost or whatever. So incredible story. But I think, to the credit of Texans, they've come together and they've done a good job. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm impressed. I'm proud of our fellow Texans.
It's been very quick and organized. It's been very quick and organized.
And I'm really impressed, George. I'm very impressed with all these guys in the National Guard. I mean, who are really doing some heavy lifting down there. So anyway, terrible situation. All right. Well, we are today learning that NPR and PBS are going to be defunded. They're not going to disappear. I mean, they're still going to be around. They're just not going to get any public funds. I never understood, even when I used to listen to NPR, and I was telling you before the show that I used to listen to it back in the 80s, and there was a show there called Morning Edition that I used to like. But even back then, I didn't understand the public funding. I never got it. I said, wait a minute. If this show is so popular, why don't they just run advertising?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was right there in DC when I started listening to it as well in the early 80s. And it was, it was a very, very well respected at that point organization. However, I just didn't understand as well why they couldn't live off of advertising and private funding just like anybody else. I mean, what did they do different than nobody else did?
Right. No, you're right. I remember reading one time, one of my favorite shows on PBS. Now I'm going back to the late 80s, because Reagan was president, so it would have been in the late 80s. One of my favorite shows on PBS was McNeil Lehrer. Remember that show? The McNeil Lehrer News Hour?
In fact, I interned one summer with them. Yeah.
It was a good program. Those two guys were good moderators. And I think they were very fair and very
it was very balanced. That was the other thing. It was very, very balanced.
It was a very good show.
Unlike
Jim Lehrer.
And today's news, today's evening news of PBS on PBS was just one attack on Trump and the Republicans for defunding PBS and NPR. It was one attack after another. I mean, it was like the end of the world.
Right, the end of the world.
This was not being funded publicly anymore.
Right. No, you're right. It was like the end of the world. But McNeil Lehrer was a show that I used to like a lot. In fact, by the way, Lehrer passed away a few days ago. I don't know if you heard that. I forgot his first name, but he was a very good reporter. He was he was very good. I used to love his questions. I used to love his, the way he did things. And McNeil was, I think, the other fellow. But they were very good in what they did. And I used to watch that show just about every night. And then one day, George, I learned that show had an audience of 6 million people. And I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, if you can get 6 million people,
exactly,
why don't you get subsidy? I mean,
why can't you get?
Why don't you run some commercials? I mean, you're not going to lose me because you run commercials. I mean, if you run a commercial, like if you say we're going to take a break for our sponsors, you're not losing me as a viewer.
But for some reason, it was. I mean, and I guess it was because they hated capitalism. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know what it was.
They had a very, very poor view. They had a very, very poor view of advertising. And, you know, I just don't see the difference between the programming and the presentation of information by PBS or NPR and CNN and MSNBC. I mean, I think that they're that far to the left. And, you know, maybe they're afraid that they're going to have to compete with those guys now. But, I mean, how many, let's really, really face it. How many conservative programs, how many conservative reporters, how many conservative shows does PBS and NPR have? Have you ever been invited onto NPR or PBS for an interview?
I was invited one time to the local PBS here. And when I got there, they were completely shocked that I was supporting President Reagan or President Bush. I think it was President Bush. And they said, well, wait a minute. You're Hispanic. You're not supposed to be that way. And I said, well, maybe you got the wrong Hispanic. Yeah, well, I said, maybe you got the wrong Hispanic. But you're right. Yeah. I mean, but I always thought, I mean, again, just a personal observation, I thought it was NPR that went lunatic more than PBS, because PBS had
really, in fact, the head of Texas Public Radio here in San Antonio, he and I have gone off the air, not on, but he and I have locked horns several times because he's based here in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. We locked horns particularly when I was president of the Tea Party. I mean, he was ruthless with me, and I didn't let him get away with it. So, you know, I kept thinking, well, you know, he will invite me on the show. He invited me one time, and then that was it. He never invited me back again because I stood my ground in support of in support of conservative values. And I mean, you know, that's, you know, it just is. It's not a shocker. In fact, to me, I'm kind of happy that we're not going to fund that. To me, it's no better than funding. You know, it's like funding Planned Parenthood. Why should we do that?
Yeah, why? I mean, to me, they get plenty of people on, you know, without. I mean, they're always telling us that what they get from the government is very small, but then they say they need it.
So then, what's the problem?
What's the problem? Make it up. I mean, get somebody to make it up.
If it's that small, no problem. Let some billionaire make it for it.
Right. And then they come up with this idea that people who live in really rural areas depend on PBS or NPR.
I think that's a ridiculous argument.
I think
they might like to wish that was true.
Yeah.
They might like to wish that, but I tell you, in small rural areas, I have driven around Texas to Van Horn, out to Alpine, and those are wide open spaces where there's people don't depend on public radio out there. They depend on local, commercial,
and there's plenty
small
of that.
Local stations. That there are plenty of. Exactly.
There are plenty of those. I mean, if you drive, like, you know, we'll drive from here to, I remember driving from here to the Texas A&M a couple of times. You go through a bunch of small towns. They will have their little AM stations as you're driving through. And those AM stations, you know, they have the news, they have the weather, they have a lot of local reporting, a lot of local advertising.
Those folks are not real. They're not interested in hearing some pro-abortion person get upset because they're not being treated fairly, or because a state has made it tougher to get abortion, or that somebody who is going transgender is not allowed to participate in athletics, or is being that is not what these people care about. I guarantee.
No. And in fact, I mean, if you drive, you know, in Texas on I-45 or I-35 going down, let's say, to San Antonio, it's really hard to find NPR because the only place they have it is in college towns. Now, they have it in Dallas, of course, and I'm not even sure they have it in Houston. In Houston, it's they have a combination.
In Houston.
Do they? Because
they have,
when we were there, they have a combination of classical music and NPR on the same station. But anyway, when you're driving on I-45, there's only one opportunity to listen to NPR, and that is when you're going close to A&M, because the student station, I guess, has the NPR. Yeah. But anyway, I think it's great that they need to go on and get their own advertising. As I said, even when I was watching,
it's time to be a grown-up.
That's
time
it.
to be a grown-up.
I was watching McNeil there every night, and I never understood why it was being funded. And I liked the show. And then I learned that they have an audience of 6 million people. I'm saying, wait a minute, why are you even being subsidized by anybody? With 6 million people, you should be able to get some advertising. I mean, that's the way it works.
Exactly.
But anyway, that's well, I think that's a done deal now, as I understand. I think Congress is finally voting on it today. But let me talk a little bit about the big story where I really wanted to chat with you today. Well, one of the reasons is that there's talk of changing the congressional districts in Texas to add +5 GOP districts. Florida has done the same thing. California has always done the same thing to favor Democrats. New York, the same. Illinois. So, I mean, this is a game that both parties play. In a recent Supreme Court decision, and that was regarding Pennsylvania about 10 years ago, the Supreme Court basically said, hey, look, these districts are to be drawn by the elected officials of the state. We're not going to get involved in this. I mean, if you don't like the districts, elect different people. Basically,
exactly.
That's what they said. So I'm pretty sure Texas will get, but I was looking at a proposed map, George, and I mean, they're really focusing in South Texas, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, after what has happened with the Hispanic vote and Trump this past election, South Texas has become a very, very big focal point for the Republican Party to emphasize. They're looking very, very closely at the Hispanic male vote, which has really just jumped the fence completely and totally, in my opinion. I'd say 60%, maybe 70% for the GOP. And if that's the case, then the GOP has a tremendous opportunity right now to expand itself in South Texas. There's also the growth that has happened south of Austin, just with people moving in. San Antonio, for example, has grown almost by 20% in the past 10 years.
Nice.
So it is. I mean, we're looking at tremendous growth, and not to mention a move to the right. So between the two, the Republican Party has got to take advantage of it.
No. Well, I mean, look, they did it in Florida, and in Florida,
why not? Yes.
Why not? I mean, if you got the majority, do it. The other side, I mean, look,
Exactly.
the other side has always done it when they have the majority. So why not do it?
Yeah.
But
and it's going to make it very, very difficult. Yeah, it's going to make it very difficult for them to scream that you're diluting the minority vote. What's her name? Jasmine Crockett is already screaming that right now. But the fact of the matter is that if you're expanding in South Texas with the Hispanic vote, you're not. What minority vote are you diluting? Exactly. Of course, on the other hand, Jasmine Crockett has already said that Hispanic men are stupid, for voting for Trump. So, maybe that's
well, we know
our stupidity is being rewarded.
Yeah, our stupidity is rewarded. Yes, but her problem though, there's going to be a ethnic seat in Dallas, but her challenge may be that seat looks a little different, or that district looks a little bit. I mean, she may have a more competitive election, because she really didn't. I mean, that district was held, as you know, by Eddie Bernice Johnson. It was for 20 years, whatever it was. And, there was really no competition in that district. The Democrat would win with 70% of the vote. I mean, it was a completely uncontested district. They may, if they change it and still have it, let's say, majority, I guess in that area, we majority black, but make it tighter so that it's more competitive. And I actually think, make it more competitive. Give people.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? But what the Democrats are going to argue is that because of the growth of the Hispanic population, that these 5 new seats should focus on Hispanics. That argument is a difficult one to make because Hispanics are gaining with the Republican Party. So you could have more Hispanic representatives in the House if you do these districts in South Texas, George.
Yeah, you sure could. You sure could.
So,
I mean, I foresee that as it is, it's going to be very difficult for Cuellar to return.
Yeah, well, that's what. His district is
the latest thing on him is that something like 5 of the charges have been dropped, but there still remains another 10 charges that he is faced with. Some very, very serious ones, of course. And so in that aspect of it, it's going to be, I mean, I think that's going to be one district that flips. So if that happens, plus let's say 4 districts go into South Texas, and they are drawn up to favor Republicans, I mean, it's very, very conceivable that you would see a majority Republican representation of Hispanics from Texas. And that would just freak them out in California.
Well, that would just freak them out. Freak them out completely. And then the other thing to consider is that in 2030, Texas is even going to get more districts because more electoral votes are coming our way in 2030 because of the census. I mean, we're talking now about drawing districts for the 26, well, probably 28, and I don't know about 26. Because how long does it take to do it, George? I mean, the governor said that he's going to include it in an upcoming session, right? So they could do it before 26, right?
Yeah, they can do it. They can do it. I mean, it always depends on the and the lawsuits by the by the Democrats. The districts, usually have all sorts of diagrams and graphics, population statistics already laid out, and all they have to do is just agree among themselves. And this is going to be the Republicans. The Republicans agree among themselves which lines are going to be drawn. How there is an initial discussion about hurting this Republican or hurting that Republican. That's that's a little bit of the delay. But once it's done, that's it. The recommendation is then sent to the governor. The governor signs off on it because usually he already knows what's coming and he has his fingers in the bowl anyway. So that gets done. And then after that, then the lawsuits begin. And if the lawsuits can be addressed very, very quickly, it can be done very quickly. It can be done. It could be done within a year.
When that happens, I mean, there's going to be lawsuits, but I think if it were to go to the Supreme Court has already shown that they favor the state legislatures doing this. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let me ask you. There was an incident in L.A. I don't know. I don't think we spoke. I think we spoke before the incident with the miners, right, in that farm. I don't think we spoke. Yeah. So, but there was these miners who were found in a L.A. farm, a cannabis farm, whatever they call it, cannabis, farm, and they found, of course, the usual number of illegal immigrants. I mean, that's not a shock. I think everybody knows that that's who's working there. But what was really shocking is they found a bunch of miners, 14 kids who were working there.
Working as indentured servants.
And I'm
almost as slaves.
Pretty close to it. I was a little surprised, frankly, that I assume there has to be some kind of a civil rights lawsuit there, having these kids working. I mean, when you were in Washington, didn't you have something to do with the civil rights?
They were obviously violating. They were obviously violating the wages or the laws for employing minors. Now, what's really fascinating to me, 2 things, is first of all that the farm workers came to their defense to the defense of the illegal alien workers. Okay, that was number one. Not surprising, but it still is. But secondly, that the farm workers have said absolutely nothing about these miners. Now, historically, one of the biggest arguments the farm workers have always had about unionizing and about about conditions, work conditions, was that young people, that miners were working in picking up the vegetables and whatnot. Yet here you have the same situation and not a peep about the issue, not a peep.
Or even the governor.
It shows they're even more so the governor.
I mean,
they are, in fact, Mexico is thinking, they announced today that they are thinking of filing a lawsuit for the illegal alien that fell off the roof that was trying to hide, because he's an illegal alien from Mexico and he got hurt because of ICE. Now,
well, the story goes though that ICE is in, go ahead.
The whole irony just blows up in my head. And you're like, what the heck are they talking about?
Well, and then this particular man who died, his name is Jaime. This particular man,
that was another one. The one, not the one. The one that fell off the roof did not die. He just got injured.
Okay.
But there was another person that got killed.
The report that I saw from ICE says that they were not chasing the guy who was on the roof. He was not a target.
He was just trying to hide.
He just unfortunately fell down. But I am absolutely overwhelmed by the fact that here you have kids working in a farm, and there's no outrage. There's no outrage from the Democrat Party saying that, hey, we cannot have that. I mean, it's just amazing to me the extent to which they're going to oppose anything that Trump does. You would think that decent people can agree, whether you agree with him with the raids or not, but decent people can agree that a 14-year-old shouldn't be working in a farm and as an unaccompanied minor. It's not like his mom and dad work there.
Cannabis farm. At a cannabis farm.
I mean,
a controlled substance.
The Democrats cannot agree on that is beyond me. I mean, that's Trump derangement syndrome.
It shows the level of morality. It shows the level of the morality that the Democrats have sunk to.
That too, of course. All right, George. Well, yeah, that was a pretty amazing story altogether. But yeah, Mexico is threatening to sue, but they haven't really initiated anything. I thought it was just a PR stunt, frankly, from the president of Mexico just to say something. But I don't think that they can seriously do it. I mean, they'd be opening a door that I don't think they want to open. I mean, imagine then tourists going to Mexico, suing Mexico because they were in the middle of a cartel shootout. I mean, imagine the consequences to Mexico of that. So I don't think Mexico wants to open that door. But we're not going to get to it today, George, but in our next segment, we'll talk about this idea, the so-called Dignity Act, an idea that has been put together by a couple of members of the House, Representative Salazar, Republican from South Florida, and Escobar, right there from El Paso.
Veronica Escobar from El Paso.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about it the next time and devote a lot more time to it. We're kind of short of time today, but we'll get into it more next week or the next time we talk, because it's an interesting idea. I don't think the votes are there for it now, but if time passes and there's a change in the political situation in the country, I don't see the votes in the next 5 years, George.
No, I think that the sentiment about the open border is very, very strong right now. So
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I think the country was so turned off by what we went through that they're completely shut out. I mean, they've simply said, we don't want to hear about immigration. Just forget about it. We don't want to hear about it. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we are. That's where we are. And you can blame that on the open border policies of President Biden. That's about all you can do. Well, George, I want to thank you so much as always for your time, and we'll chat again sometime in the next week or so. We'll get together again. How's the weather in San Antonio?
It's hot and muggy, but good. It's hot and muggy, but good. Lots
Ask me how the
sunshine.
weather is in the Dallas area.
How is it in Dallas?
Good, hot and
How is
muggy.
Dallas?
Yeah, hot and muggy. Yeah, same. Almost like we have the same temperatures or the same weather report. Normally, you guys are hotter than we are, but I think right now it's almost
usually
the
a
same.
couple of by degrees, at least by a couple of
Yeah,
degrees.
no, I agree. But this time we're almost on the same weather report. But thank you so much, George. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Our good friend George Rodriguez from South Texas talking a little bit about the politics of all of this. Big story that I wanted to talk about this week is these congressional seats that could be happening here. You know, as you know, the state legislature draws up the seats for congressional districts, and in Texas we've got 38 of them. And the Republican legislature and the governor feel that they can pick up 5 seats by redrawing the districts. This is something that states do. It's not, Texas would not be the first one. Florida did it. I mean, California is extremely well known for doing it. Illinois is extremely well known for doing it. Of course, they favor Democrats in those 2 states. But I mean, this is what legislatures do with their majorities. And obviously the same thing is going to happen here. But thank you very much for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.